What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of Born to Heal with my boy over here, Tyler Heavy T Soto. What's going on, my friend?
Not much, man. Enjoyed a great pay-per-view last weekend. Enjoyed one of the better episodes of Monday Night Raw I think I may have ever seen in my life. Yeah, dude, just we're doing great, man. We are vibing. We are flying high over on Papa H's Wrestling Federation, the Worldwide Wrestling, whatever you want to call it.
Papa H is hitting hard right now. Let me
Bro,
tell
that man is cooking hardcore. He's in his bag, dude. It's beautiful.
Well, let me tell everyone real quick kind of what this show is about. It's called Born to Heal. And we're not only talking about heels, we also talk about baby faces too, people. Trust me. But we pretty much, it's a weekly wrestling podcast about what we like, didn't like, predictions, a weekly Liv Morgan tribute from Heavy T.
Oh, yes. Fun fact, one of my ex-girlfriend's name is Liv, so this would be the second Liv I would allow to ruin my life.
Liv Morgan, like your ex.
Yeah.
Dirty Dominique Mysterio. Are you jealous? Are you jealous, Heavy T?
I might be. Like, look at right here, dude. Like, come on. I might. This woman is psycho, and I love it. Like, it's not like like she might kill me. It's like
she has Margot Robbie, Harley Quinn vibes for sure.
I feel like it's that pumped up to like 11. It's so good. So, she comes out and she's wearing Dom's vest because I'm assuming he left it unattended or whatever. And she he's like, hey, I want my vest back. They're in the hallway. He's like, I want my vest back. And she's like, oh, the only way you're going to get it back is like, you have to take it off me. And so he kind of goes up to her. I think it's so funny because he goes up to her and like gently pulls on the zipper like as slow as he can. Yeah. So, and she's enjoying every second of this. Meanwhile, I think it's Damien or Finn that sees him in the hallway. He's like, hey, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
I think it was Priest that goes Damien.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm just trying to get my vest back, whatever. She's playing so much into it. On top of that, I think it was last night, she put on Instagram a couple pictures and it says thinking about you with the kiss emoji. And she's wearing Dom's shirt, like the merch shirt. Oh. And I'm like, oh God, dude. It's one of those things where I'm like, why can't that be me?
Why can't that be me?
Yeah, there's a very old clip of Dolph Ziggler on the mic, and he just says, "It should have been me."
Well, on Father's Day, she wished him a happy Father's Day too.
Dude, I saw that. Oh my God, this woman is unhinged.
It said, "Happy Father's Day, Daddy."
Oh my God, she's absolutely unhinged. I love every second of it because
she is in the way of the Judgment Day, breaking them up.
It's gonna, when Rhea Ripley comes back, this thing is gonna be amazing when she comes back from injury. And if I have to guess, she's maybe about a month and a half away from coming back. So she could come back at Money in the Bank. If not, I think she'll definitely be back in time for SummerSlam. But this storyline,
would that be called a mommy-daddy match between Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan?
Look, so I'm throwing this out there. This is what I would like to see WWE do. In about 2005, you had a custody of Dominic ladder match between Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero. I would like to see that replayed. Custody of Dominic between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. I would love to see it. The fans are clamoring for it. Make it happen.
Let's do it. So let's talk about Clash at the Castle real quick. A lot of it was pretty predictable, but there were a few surprises in there.
I'd say there was one. Yeah, there was one general surprise.
That was the women's tag team trio. There.
Yeah, did not see that coming. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because I believe it's Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. They are, if not both from Scotland, one of them is for sure. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I mean, you got to give the hometown crowd something because it turns out they didn't get anything really. So we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, that would, Other than that, I think my only surprise is that not necessarily anybody's fault, but the ropes were a little more slippery than usual.
Mm-hmm.
Had an interesting little botch in the main event that we'll get to.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, overall, it's a pretty solid show, dude. I enjoyed it.
I loved it, and I love the fact that I got to wake up, and by 11 o'clock, I'm watching wrestling at home. It was awesome. I had my nephew over with my daughter. Obviously, she's a big Bailey fan. That fight was okay. It wasn't the best, but of course,
Yeah.
Bailey won. There's not much really to talk about there, except for Piper Niven lost in her home country, so that's that. But what I found very interesting is at first it was all for Bailey, all the crowd noise, everything, and then they started getting into Piper more, and then she was getting chants. So it was kind of a weird vibe going on during that fight.
I mean, it's Bailey is one of those people where you will love her no matter what. I wish I could marry that woman. I'll be straight up with you.
It seems like a cool, down to earth.
She seems like she's a very down to earth, very relaxed person, I guess is the easiest way to say it. There was a video that she put out because she sometimes puts out videos of her working out in what I'm assuming is her backyard, like kind of around the garage. So she was working out with some weights, and then she grabs 3 of the cornhole bags and drains 3 of them down the middle. I was like, I need to marry this woman.
And she's shotgun a beer right after, because that would have
been perfect. She's amazing. Like she's literally every dude's dream girl. So like I think that's why people get behind her so much. Also, she's just a very lovable character as far as WWE goes. So it makes sense why people get behind her. Plus they have the chant. I don't know if you know what the chant is.
I don't.
So it goes
yelling the entire time.
So it goes, hey, Bailey, ooh, I want to know, girl. Like that's it's a really fun chant.
Yeah,
I like it. Your daughter would actually probably really get into it.
I gotta get. She made signs. I was saying you videos of my daughter. She made her little signs, and she goes up to the TV and goes, Bailey, sign my sign. Go.
That's
it's adorable.
Adorable. Oh my god. Well, we're gonna have to do something about that in the future. We will get to that. But yeah. So it can be, like I said, it makes sense that they're behind Bailey at first, but Piper's from Scotland. She's got like the whole Scottish crowd behind her. Yeah, she's gonna get some traction as the match goes on. That's the way it works. This result was pretty easy to see.
Yeah.
Since they're already setting up Nia Jax versus Bailey at SummerSlam.
100%.
Yeah. So, but hey, Piper got a good showing out of it. It's good. It's cool.
Okay, which one do you want to? Let's talk about the Cody Rhodes AJ Styles I Quit match, which opened the show, which surprised both.
Yeah, I did not see that opening the show. I didn't think it was going to be the main event because obviously Drew being Scottish was going to be the main event.
Yeah,
but I didn't think it was going to open the show either, so that caught me a little off guard. But that's okay because I actually thought the match was pretty decent. It was pretty good. Yeah, I like the blading by Cody. It's nice to see a little blood in an I Quit match. AJ looks like a total. I mean, yeah, this is an FCC regular. He looks like an asshole. So yeah, so like he looked like an ass. But the way it ended, I thought was pretty good. So Cody gets out of the handcuffs because he finds the key. Then he cuffs AJ to the ropes, basically starts beating him up, says, "Do you quit?" And he's like, "No, I don't." And then Cody goes out of the ring, pulls up the steel steps. AJ starts freaking out. He's like, "Oh, I quit." And then Cody throws him on him anyway.
Does it anyways, baby.
Which you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like they're very slowly planting a Cody heel turn.
That would be
very slowly,
but interesting at the same time.
I would be all for it. I've seen him as a heel before, both in old WWE and in AEW. He's a dick, and I love it.
So over right now.
He's mega over, yeah. So I really hope this isn't one of those situations where you don't know this, but there was a situation where John Cena is the ultimate babyface, right?
Yeah.
The kids love him. He sells merch and everything like that, and they were going to turn him heel, and John was all for it. They had new merch ready to go. They had a new intro song for him. Everything was ready. WWE gets cold feet at the last second and backs out.
Wow.
So I really hope it doesn't end up being like that because I would like to see Cody heel. But hey, like I said, good match. He's killing it right now. Let's keep it going, man.
My favorite part of the match personally was when Mama Rhodes bitch slapped AJ.
Oh, that's right. That did happen. That was funny. That was really good. And you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I did really like how they set it up at the ending. So Bloodline comes out as Cody's walking out, kind of attacks him a bit, and then Randy and Owens come out and they attack the Bloodline, and they beat him, make him go away, whatever. But if you noticed, you see when they're chilling and when they're cheering and they're like, oh, we made him go away or whatever, Randy's looking at the title very clearly.
Ooh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so if there's something you notice, Randy's looking at the title, and there was the rumor that we were going to get Randy versus Cody at Royal Rumble, but I think they realized they booked that maybe a little too early, so they made it the Fatal 4-Way instead. So I think what we're going to get, I think at Money in the Bank, you get Cody, Owens, Orton versus the Bloodline at Money in the Bank, and then I think we get Orton, Cody, SummerSlam. I think that's how that goes.
That'll be huge.
That'd be fun. That'd be a good one.
Ironically enough, even though he said I quit, he wasn't the one who actually quit. But more on that when we get to the Monday Night Raw portion of the show, which was also crazy. But we'll get to there because he's up next here that we got to talk about, and that is obviously. Well, I want to talk about this before we talk about the Chad Gable going into months.
Okay.
Raw and everything like that. So let's talk about the McIntyre and the McIntyre and Priest fight here with the slip, obviously. And I text you right afterwards. I was like, did he mean to fall?
No, that was 100% an accident.
Yeah, and shout out to Drew for the way he handled it, to be honest. He still played it off a little bit, but still up there.
I thought that was actually hilarious. Drew acted like, oh, you slipped and fell? Too bad. I'm going to whoop your ass anyway. And then just starts beating him as he's hanging upside down. I thought Drew is a consummate pro. But also, I think this match, and specifically that moment, made Damian, in a weird way, accidentally look really good. Because if I remember reading this correctly, he actually did mess up his ankle just a tiny bit. But, kept going the way he was supposed to during the match. So good for him.
He was limping a little bit on Raw.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that was planned.
That was not. No, that was definitely because of the rope, or him getting twisted in the rope.
But I thought the match overall was a really good match between the two. And again, you hit it right there on the head. Like, I have way more respect for Damian Priest than I did.
Yeah, I think it made him look a bit stronger as a champion.
Yeah.
Even with the way the match ended, which I thought was amazing. I called it in our little beta test of this podcast that we did last week. I said Judgment Day is barred from ringside, but CM Punk is not. Punk is going to do something. I don't know what, but he's going to do something that's going to cost Drew the match. Him coming out as the ref, which I have to give major props to WWE's production staff because it was filmed perfectly. You get the faraway angle of a ref, because you're too far away, you can't tell who it is. You get the faraway angle of a ref coming down to the ring, and then they catch him sliding in from the backside. I knew it was Punk immediately.
I did too. How about the slick back hair?
I could actually tell by his shoes. No ref is wearing Jordans. Sorry.
Red Jordans.
Yeah. So I knew it was Punk immediately. But 1, 2, and then he stops. And the thing I think is funny is not only does he hold up 2,
he does it like a model, like a boy band.
No, but he does it backwards, like you're throwing up the peace sign. However, in England, the UK, that sign is fuck you. That's what that sign is.
Oh.
So I thought that was really well done. I was like, okay.
A double right there. A big double.
A big double. So, like, it's basically looking at him like, hey, go fuck yourself. Yeah. And, he screws him over. Priest hits his finishing move, which I'm blanking at what it's called at the moment. Okay. And then the actual ref comes back in. 1, 2, 3, it's over. Yeah. And I thought it was hilarious. I don't know if you've seen these videos going around on Twitter, but there's one very specific one where Drew, you get the 1, 2, and then it stops. And it's this Scottish dude filming it in the crowd. He's like way in the upper deck. This dude loses his mind. He starts calling him. Now there's a couple swear words I won't say on here. He starts calling him, C and like you effing C, like all this. And I was just like, oh my Lord. So Punk had people pissed.
He had to get out of there right away. That's for sure.
Oh no, he had to get out of there real quick. I thought it was a great ending to the pay-per-view as a whole. I kind of felt bad because, at the end of these shows, the ring announcer, who in this case is Samantha Irvin, will get out and basically saying, hey, thank you guys all for coming, drive safe, have a good night, whatever. So she goes out there and she says that, and the crowd is booing so loud you can barely hear her.
Couple of weeks, okay?
Yeah, it's just, oh my goodness. But yeah, no, great way to end the match. Great way for Punk to intervene. It's perfect, and we'll get into what it set up on Monday Night Raw in a minute. But I thought it was perfect. Great, loved it.
Agreed. Chad Gable, Sami Zayn. What interesting matchup this was. It was a little underwhelming to me, but it also set up for Raw, which more came from it, which was cool. But I thought, and you thought too, I think we were both maybe have leaned that Chad Gable may win and take the Intercontinental Championship away from Zayn in this one. But it turned out to not be the case. There was more Otis, Maxine. Her hat did get knocked off, as I called. Otis carried Maxine to safety. Where was Cesaro in all this? He wasn't even there, huh?
Tozawa, I'd imagine, probably had some sort of visa issue, so he probably couldn't make it over to it, because I believe he is from Japan, so he probably couldn't make it over to the UK. But yeah, that was an interesting little bit. So I'm trying to remember how this goes exactly. Obviously, he wants Otis, Chad being, he wants Otis to, beat up Sammy as much as he can. Otis is very reluctant to do it. Fast forward to like the middle of the match, or towards the end, I should say, Sammy is about to hit a haluva kick on Chad in the corner. Chad ducks. Maxine's right behind him. Sammy pumps the brakes on it as fast as he can. Stops. Chad, I believe, takes that to his advantage, and then it eventually gets to the outside. Chad's looking at Otis like, you need to hit him when I tell you, whatever. So Sammy comes flying from the ring, jumps on Otis, thinking it was Chad. I think Otis pushed him out of the way slightly.
Yeah, if you look at that, it almost looks like Chad's pushing Otis into the way.
That wouldn't surprise me either. Yeah, that's a very coward's way out, so yeah. I like that. So meanwhile, Maxine has a busted leg pretty much, I guess, because she's in a walking boot this entire time. And, while Chad and Sammy are fighting on the side, Chad has Sammy in an ankle lock, I believe, in the corner of the outside of the ring. Sammy rolls out of it, flipping Chad over in the process, and Chad accidentally chop blocks Maxine in the back of the leg, which I've had that happen to me before. Ow, it hurts. It's not fun. So, and Maxine played it off like her life was on the line, which is great. Absolutely great. But Otis looks at Chad, looks like he's going to murder him. More on that later. So, looks like he's absolutely about to kill him. Chad's like, oh, shit. So, they kind of, then the action gets back in the ring as Otis is walking Maxine out, and Sammy ends up retaining, which I'm fine with it. Knowing what I known up to the point where of the end of that match, I would have preferred that Chad won. But with everything that we've seen happen after, I think I see why they're doing it. I also think it leads to two things, which we still haven't gotten yet. Number one is that the Creed brothers are coming. Mm-hmm. Those dudes are going to join Chad at any second. Second, if you notice too, and I believe Michael Cole said it on commentary, Sammy looked back in Chad and said, that's it. You're not getting any more title shots. Because I think that's his third.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're not getting any more. And Chad's just looking at him pissed off. That's actually a great way of keeping the title on Sammy, giving it more prestige. And at the same time, Chad gets a new group and goes after a bigger title. I think that's a very interesting way of building that. So, good match. Personally, like I said, in the moment, would have preferred a Chad winning ending, but good match. I see why they did it. Mm-hmm. Well done.
So let's just go right into Raw with that match and how that kind of forwarded into it. Sammy comes out, says that he's done with Chad Gable. He's done with the Alpha Academy. He's moving on. And of course, that results in Chad Gable and the Alpha Academy coming out and having a fight, which ultimately Otis finally gets his anger issues out on Chad a little bit there.
Pushes him down. I think that's officially him saying, like, we're done with you. We're gone.
And
so
instead of looking angry, he looks sad for once, Chad Gable, at the end, which was interesting. Or shocked, I guess, would be more of the...
Yeah, I think shocked is a better way to put. I mean, you could say, I think disappointed is a good way of putting that too. But it's good for them. The split was coming. We all saw it, and it worked out for the other 3 Alpha Academy members, as we will get to in a little bit. Worked out for them because I'm assuming they left the arena early. So we will get to that in a bit. So yeah, I'm trying to remember.
I left the arena early. It worked out for them.
Yes. This was a good show to either not be on or leave early.
Or somehow Jey Uso wasn't touched. But also, we'll get to that later.
Hey, you know what? Just took the wrong exit. Lucked out, man. Well, we'll get to that second because Jay was obviously in the main event. A main event that I would have liked to see a different result, but that's just me.
Are you not a Jey Uso guy at all?
I'm not. I'm honestly not. I can't.
Solo, main event, spill, and all this stuff. I love it, but hey, you're the opposite of me here.
Yeah, I think there's a couple more guys that are a little more deserving, but that's just my opinion. We can get to that as Money in the Bank draws closer because I believe we did have. Well, like I said, Jay was at the end, was in the first qualifying match.
So he's going to be in it.
Sure. Yeah, so we'll skip ahead to the main event real quick. It was between him, Finn Balor, and Rey Mysterio. Rey's not winning it. Let's be real here. Like, that was not happening. He's just in there to make it look good. I'm actually disappointed Balor didn't win. That's who I wanted to see win. I think Balor versus Priest would have set up very nicely.
Ooh,
however, that was me saying that before the beginning of Monday Night Raw, because a certain someone returned.
Yes.
Oh, that was you. Like, I'm just giving it to you.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I was like, oh, you want to talk about Seth freaking Rollins?
Yeah, he's back. He is back.
He last lost to Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. Lost his title there as well, but not to Drew. Well, I guess to Drew McIntyre for 5 minutes.
Lost to Drew, who lost to Damian. But technically, the last time we did see him was night 2, interfering in the Reigns Cody match. That's right.
He was as a Shield member, right? Wasn't he?
As a Shield member, yeah. The end of night 2.
Yeah. So yeah, he's back. He looks great. I can't wait to see him wrestle. He's one of my favorites there. So I don't know who. Did they announce who he's going to be wrestling first, or where?
So he basically said he wants, a shot at the World Heavyweight title, which is the title he lost. Yeah. And Priest is like, okay, you can have it. Which I was like, okay.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that was fast.
That's when Priest limped out, as I mentioned earlier, and was like, yeah, let's go. So that'll be a fun matchup.
And that's happening at Money in the Bank, I believe. That matchup at least. Yeah, okay. Which I was like,
he's going to be healthy and ready to go by then, I guess.
They should be fine. But I was like, oh, we're just, we're not even doing a number 1 contender. We're just getting right into this. So, which I mean was great. I thought it was great. I'm always down to see more Seth Rollins. Damian Priest, I think Priest keeps it. That's the way I would go, but I think he could use Rollins to get like a good showing out of him, and then they just go from there. So yeah, that's a good one.
Quick question with Money in the Bank. I don't mean to go off topic, but it's not really. But let's say the main Money in the Bank match to get the briefcases, the match before Rollins Priest. Can the winner of that match claim it right then, right there?
It has happened before. Okay. Yes. The last. On the women's side, that's happened like 2 or 3 times where they cashed it in on the same night. On the men's side, the last person I remember doing that was Dean Ambrose, who is now Jon Moxley in AEW. Ironically, cashing it in on Rollins. So that was a Rollins versus Reigns for the WWE Championship. Reigns surprisingly lost to Rollins, and then Dean cashed in. Yeah, no, this was like 2016. Yeah. And then Dean cashed in immediately after. So in the span of about 5 minutes, all three members were world champions. All three Shield members, I should say,
Yeah.
were world champions. So that was kind of wild. But I think that's the last time that happened. But yeah, it could happen.
It could happen this year, especially with Priest the way he did it. Like I don't know, it could set something up, but we'll see. Anyways, back to Raw. And then we'll talk about Drew McIntyre real quick. We talked about his match at Clash at the Castle. Obviously, he comes out at Raw, and he's mad, and he just says, "Screw this company, I quit." And and took down all of his social media. By the way, how is he going to get back all those followers, man? Come on.
I thought, well, I mean, you could just disable it. You don't have to full on delete it. Yeah. The deleting of the social media, I thought was a great touch. Kayfabe is still alive. The only thing I'm slightly bummed about, I wish we didn't know that he had re-signed already. I think that news broke about a month ago.
Yeah.
So that would have made it like, oh, what the hell is happening? That would have been kind of crazy. But, you know, The Rock has to put everything on social, I guess.
Yeah,
but
could this be a little bit of just a hiatus for him? Because we've seen a lot of Drew lately.
It could. I don't know how much of a hiatus, though, because I would imagine he's going to want to maybe get the Money in the Bank briefcase.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I do know for a fact, because I was listening to the guys over at Russell Talk on YouTube, shout them out real quick. But I do, one of them did mention that I believe Punk will not be cleared for Money in the Bank. He'll be cleared after.
Okay.
Yes, which would set up their match at SummerSlam, which, as we mentioned before, does not need the title. It's already a blood feud.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good. That's gonna be a fun one, dude. I'm excited for that. But yeah, Drew quits. Triple H and Adam Pearce tried to talk to him in the gorilla position behind the scenes. He's like, "Nah, f you, I'm out of here," and he just dipped. So it's like, all right, cool. That's pretty good.
I'm glad he did because
things were afoot.
Yeah, and then obviously after the match, Jey Uso was in the crowd celebrating. They were doing the Fireflies, and what happened, Heavy T? Some craziness happened.
Yes, my favorite part. So Jey Uso did win his Money in the Bank qualifying match, so he will be in the Money in the Bank ladder match, which we already kind of figured because I think he supposedly entered it like 3 weeks ago. So it was really more of a foregone conclusion than anything. But yeah, so he's celebrating, and this is one of my favorite things. The match is over. It's the main event. You look at the clock. There's like 8 minutes left before Raw is supposed to be off the air. So you're like, okay, something's going to happen. And then what happens is you hear the power shut off, the lights turn off, and it gets like pitch black inside the arena. And then you look at the main stage and a door opens. And it's just a bright light. And then through the door, crawling on all fours, is one of the Wyatt characters. It's not Sister Abigail. I'm trying to remember what her name is, but it's Nikki Cross.
Yeah.
For anybody.
Literally looks like the girl from The Ring.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
It was creepy. It wasn't, yeah. She was crawling like this on the ground. Like it was I had chills. I was like, whoa, this is insane.
Yeah, give me 1 sec. Let me look this up.
And of course, they had the smoke all over the ground and everything too. It was just a great touch. And she brings the lantern now, right?
Yeah, I think she'll technically bring it out. She is known as, I believe her name is Abby the Witch, which may or may not be Sister Abigail for those who are familiar with Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
So there is that. So she kind of points to the backstage area. And you're going backstage, and like you said, there's all this fog all over the ground. And then the next person you see, I believe, is Ramblin' Rabbit, another one of Bray Wyatt's characters, who is Eric Rowan. Mm-hmm. Eric Rowan, obviously part of the original Wyatt family. I did like the fact that they gave him the hammer that said help.
Yeah.
So you don't know this, but after the Wyatts had split, him and Luke Harper, a.k.a. Brody Lee, had turned themselves into a Bludgeon Brothers tag team where they had those hammers. Brody Lee has since passed away, so that was a nice little homage to that. So it just says help on it. And then you get to backstage. Jesus Christ, dude. It was a horror movie back there. I don't even know how else to explain it. It was a literal horror show. So backstage, you see Huskus, I believe his name is Huskus the Pig, who is played by Joe Gracie, and Mercy the Buzzard, who is played by Dexter Loomis.
Creepy masks, by the way. They're not
great masks. Yeah. I love them.
They literally have the same mask designers as Slipknot. Like they're that.
Yeah. I think the guy who made the mask, I'm trying to remember if he actually did stuff for Slipknot.
It would make a ton of sense because they're.
I have to double check, but yeah, no. So you see these dudes. And then they go into the gorilla position, which is like the main behind the scenes area, right there as you go through the curtain. And like, dude, there's sparks coming out of the ceiling. There's people they fucking killed a guy.
There's blood on the wall.
There was a guy sitting there against the wall, and there's just blood. This guy's dead. So it's like, okay, that's wild. And then, you go a little more backstage and there's people all over. Now, there's rumors as to who these people on the floor were. Some people think they saw Braun Strowman in there, which would make sense because he's an ex-Wyatt family member. Some people thought that Carmelo Hayes was there, which doesn't really make sense because he's on SmackDown. Yeah. But there was one very obvious one. Chad Gable is dead.
Chad Gable's dead. Yeah.
They showed Chad Gable. That man was lying against a cart with just blood dripping on the side. That man looked like he got shot. He was dead. And it was so funny.
Right after he just signed his new contract. Too.
Yeah, right after he just signed the new contract. Right after, the funny thing, one of the funniest tweets I saw was have you seen that video of The Boys? It's Homelander where he's like laughing as the violin's playing in the background because he's like, oh, I can get away with this.
Yeah.
So it was that video, and it said Otis realizing that the Wyatt Sick6 is going to get blamed for killing Chad Gable, and in parentheses it says he shot him right before. So that was a great tweet, but I was just like, oh my, like they literally killed him. So I think this was announced yesterday. Obviously, Chad Gable's not really dead. Yeah. But one thing I did announce.
Oh, that guy's dead.
Oh no, that guy's mega dead. Yeah. I don't know. That guy is dead. His funeral was yesterday. I was there. Just like rest in peace, my brother. Like that man is gone. Yeah. So Gable, if you didn't see this, I believe this came out. It was either yesterday or this morning, but I believe it was yesterday on Wednesday. That he is not going to be in his Money in the Bank qualifying match on Monday. So it was originally supposed to be Braun Strowman, Bronson Reed, and Chad Gable in the Money in the Bank qualifying match, and Gable's been pulled, which I think is great job keeping up with continuity and all that stuff. Because my big thing is like, well, Chad Gable's dead. He's advertised for next week. If he gets out there and he's wrestling like nothing's wrong, I'm gonna be pissed. But they actually took him out. Great. And I was like, okay, so they're playing it off as in like he's actually like just had a near-death experience. It's like, okay, I can get behind that. So I was like, all right, that's pretty good. Now, another great tweet is, like I said, supposedly Braun Strowman was one of the people attacked backstage. People think that they saw him like in the video clip. Bronson Reed comes out and on Twitter, and he puts out a tweet. He's like, so are my opponents just dead? Do I just automatically get into the Money in the Bank match? Like, what happens here? So like, everyone has played this off so well, and I loved it. Bray Wyatt is one of my top, honestly, probably my top 2 favorite wrestlers of all time. His creativity literally knew no bounds. He was so good. He was so good on the mic.
His entrance was just.
His entrances were. This dude would have the crowd in the palm of his hand, and it's so sad that he has since passed away. It's actually one of the few times where a celebrity has passed away, and I actually cried. Like I was actually really bummed out about that. but the way that they made at least this initial debut look, the fact that his brother is the one taking over, I love it. This was a beautiful homage to Bray Wyatt, and it was so well done. I
like the new Uncle Howdy mask too. It looks
a lot better. Looks a lot better than the old one did. I also think this is very interesting. WWE has come out and said that as far as with the Wyatt 6 goes, that they're not going to play into like any of like the stupid spooky mystical crap, like all that stuff like that. Like they're not going to have like superpowers or something like that, you know, which I mean works sometimes, but nowadays
straight up serial killers.
Yeah, no, they might be straight up serial killers, but I really hope and this again Russell kind of talked about this and they gave me this idea. I really hope that they go back to what the original Bray Wyatt character was, whereas like this guy is a master with his words, can convince anybody of anything. Basically, you are my followers, I am your leader. So I really hope it ends up being something like that. But man, dude, what a debut.
Yep. They all come out, he holds up the lantern and says,
yeah,
and it goes to pitch black.
Which is exactly what Bray used to do, hold up the lantern, say we're here. I'm so excited for this. I really can't
I have a
wait.
couple of questions because like I said, I was big in the 90s, early 2000s. I had a hiatus. I just got back into it recently here. Are these guys going to wrestle in these masks?
That I don't know. So it's going to be kind of interesting because when Bray Wyatt debuted his Fiend character, which was like a cultish Mr. Rogers type thing, it was amazing. When he wrestled in like the red sweater, like normal pants and everything. But when it came to like the big matches, that's when the character flipped. He became the Fiend. Now they could do something like that. I don't imagine they'd be fighting in the mask like full time. That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, it'd be hard, especially that vulture mask. Like that would be almost impossible.
I feel like he would be just pecking people to death. So, which would be kind of hardcore, not gonna lie.
But these guys are going to wrestle as this new faction, the Wyatt.
Yeah, so it's going to be. I'm very curious to see what they do, because I don't think they're going to wrestle, but I don't think they're going to wrestle soon.
Yeah, they're going to play it up. They'll make appearances like this that are kind of dark, you know.
Yeah, I honestly think that Triple H is going to look at how the original Wyatt family was, and he's going to do everything that Vince McMahon didn't with the group, which basically means he's going to do it the right way.
Pretty much what he's doing now with everybody, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, essentially, yeah. That's exactly what he's doing. God, Vince was so out of touch. Jesus Christ. Anyways, but yeah, no, like I said, I'm excited to see where this goes, man. I really am.
Another question is, there's been speculation because it's called the Wyatt 6. There's only 5 of them. Who is the 6th member going to be? Now, my theory is that the 6th member is actually Bray Wyatt, just paying tribute to him. What do you think?
That is a possibility. Now, 2 things to mention. Number 1, I thought when the group debuted, they debuted a new logo as well, and everybody knew this name was going to be the Wyatt 6. What I didn't know is the way they spelled 6.
S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K-S, which I was like, oh, that's a nice little twist.
Yeah.
So in that retrospect, you could keep it as in Bray is our leader. We are doing this for him, like our fallen leader. The only other person that I can think of that would be a member of the Wyatt 6 is Alexa Bliss, who we have not seen in over a year due to her becoming pregnant and having a kid.
God darn it.
Kids ruin everything, dude. I swear. Alexa, if you listen to this, I do not mean your kid is actually adorable. So like, don't come after me. But that's the only other person I could see doing this. Okay. I don't know where she stands as far as wanting to wrestle now that she's married and has a kid. But who knows? I mean, we'll see what happens. I'd be totally fine if it just stayed these 5 and Bray was the quote unquote 6th member. But if they include Alexa, I'm fine with that too. It's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Do you think they come back or they continue with this on Raw next week?
I don't know. I think it gets mentioned next week, as in like, what the hell was that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious.
Build it up a few more weeks as we're doing the qualifications for Money in the Bank.
They could be, yeah. I'm curious to see. I don't think they will, because I think they're primarily going to be a Raw group. I'm curious to see if they'll do anything on SmackDown tomorrow. We are recording this on Thursday, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see if they'll do anything for SmackDown on Friday. But no,
we'll obviously talk about it next week.
Yeah, I feel like as far as that debut goes, they may attack somebody every week. They may not. I don't know.
Okay, well, like I said, I loved it. I had goosebumps. I had chills. It was cool. It was fun to watch. It was good to see the WWE go kind of in a different route. It's been going over the last few months too. And by the way, Raw's been killing it over SmackDown recently.
Yeah, honestly, I can't. Other than the Bloodline stuff, I can't think of a single thing that's going on in SmackDown right now. I really can't.
Yeah,
that's the only thing that's happening. It's just the
Cody
Bloodline
is only
stuff.
on SmackDown to promote his pay-per-views, pretty much. So,
I mean, yeah, pretty much. Now it's going to be interesting, because I think Cody will go to SmackDown a little bit more, especially if this Bloodline versus him, KO, and Randy Orton thing is true, because KO and Orton are on SmackDown.
yes.
And if that ends up leading to Orton versus Cody, you're going to see Cody on SmackDown a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So, because like I said, Orton is on SmackDown.
Let's talk about the Bloodline before we call it a merry day here. Now, Solo Sikoa is your head of the table, and the two Tongas, the brothers, who are vicious, by the way. It's kind of a whole different era of this, right? They're more vicious. They're more like anything goes. It seems like it's less organized than when Roman was the.
Oh, it's definitely less organized, but yeah, it definitely is. I feel like they lean into that more specifically. I love the Paul Heyman freakouts. I think they're hilarious.
He's great.
Paul Heyman will forever be one of my favorite, if not my actual favorite manager, as far as wrestling goes of all time. I love that guy. But yeah, he king of facial expressions, by the way. But with everything going out, and supposedly Solo has said like, oh, I talked to Roman, like he's cool with all this. And I believe it was earlier today, people found out that Roman unfollowed Solo on at least Instagram. So there's some interesting things slowly at play. This one's the Bloodline feud, I think for now is on the slow burn. It's on the back burner a little bit, while some other things come up more to the forefront. But it's still a pretty good story. It just needs a little bit more time to cook. Obviously, you need to get Roman back. He's filming a movie right now. So, but they'll get him back.
The Rock and John Cena.
Yeah,
funny, wouldn't it? And Drax.
Hey, Batista, man, dude's killing it.
My question is this: do you think that they're doing all this, and once the most booed babyface ever in Roman Reigns, who became a heel to the most, probably one of the best heels of all time, do you think they're bringing him back to that good guy state? He's going to team up with the Uso brothers who left, maybe even Sammy again, and go against the Bloodline here? Like what?
I think he goes. I think he does eventually go against Solo and the Bloodline. I don't want to say they bring him back as a babyface. I think they bring him back as, I think the term is tweener, where you're kind of both. You're a babyface and a heel. Basically, the easiest way to describe it is a Venom type character, where you're the anti-hero.
Yep.
Okay, so I think that's probably the way they go. And I'd imagine he comes back around SummerSlam. I could be wrong, but I'd imagine that's where he comes back.
SummerSlam is going to be epic this year. It's going
to be a good one. Weird that it's in Cleveland, Ohio, but it's going to be a good one.
It's
although
right, it's at the football stadium.
I was going to say, I think it's at I think it's First Energy Stadium now, where the Browns play.
Whatever.
So, which, if I'm correct, no, that's a lie. They've been doing SummerSlam at big stadiums for a couple years now, because I remember the first SummerSlam after COVID, it was at Allegiant in Vegas.
Wow.
So, which is where WrestleMania is going to be. And they did announce, I believe last week, they announced SummerSlam for 2026.
Yeah.
Is going to be in Minnesota, and it's going to be a 2-day event.
No,
which
we're
I find
in
interesting.
2025. We don't even know yet.
Yeah, so
Ready.
real quick, there was the giant rumor going around that the next WrestleMania was going to be in Minnesota. And it was going to be, obviously a 2-day event where the Vikings play inside US Bank Stadium.
Yeah.
Obviously, Vegas ended up stepping in at the last second. They're like, hey, bring us, WrestleMania or whatever. So I think they made a deal with Minnesota, like, hey, this is going to be, we're not going to give you WrestleMania, but we're going to give you the second biggest event of the year, and we're going to make it 2 nights
Yep.
like we do WrestleMania, which is it's a pretty good consolation
I
prize.
love it. A whole weekend of wrestling is okay with me. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
love it.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Well, here we are. We got SmackDown this week and Raw to look forward to on Monday. And then next week, we'll talk a little AEW and Forbidden Door. A lot going on there.
Yeah.
Especially with Ospreay and whose house?
Swerve's house.
Yes, I'm so enthusiastic about that one.
It's not Swerve's fault. Tony Khan is
I know. He made him.
He might be cooking a little too much.
Let's put a bookmark in that right there. Get people to tune in next week because we are going to talk about that next week before Forbidden Door and how much I cannot stand anymore Tony Storm. Next week. Yeah, I'll feed you, my baby bird. The first episode of Born to Heal is in the books. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Edward Raus at Edward Raus at all your favorite social media, and you are
Heavy T. You can find me at Heavy T on air and all major social media.
Yes, and he is hilarious to follow. So give him a like, give him a follow, give him a subscribe. This will be out on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud.
Apple Podcast. It won't be on Apple Music, but it'll be Apple Podcast.
Same thing. You can search it on there.
Basically, wherever you find your podcast, it'll be on there.
And also, I'm going to have a video version of it on the My Night Rants YouTube and also on mynightrants.com. You can also get all the links there to check it out as well. Born to Heal in the books, episode 1. Enjoy your week of wrestling. We'll see you next week. See ya.